Welcome everyone to a session of IWIN. This is the Illinois Work-Based Learning 101 session. I will share more a bit about the network. I see a lot of, familiar names on here and some new names as well. So we'll give a bit of background there, but really going to spend this session covering all the different resources and pieces that we have in Illinois. But before that, I'll just introduce myself. I'm Heather Penzak, Director of Innovation with Education Systems Center at NIU, or Ed Systems, as many know us by, and I'll let my colleague Danya introduce themselves.
Yeah, hi everybody. So happy to be here with you all today. I'm Danya Ibrahim, Innovation Manager at Ed Systems.
And we're just really excited to have you all here today. We really wanted to kick off, the start of the school year with all the things that are available with work-based learning. And so, I think sometimes we're in a new role or we're designing a new experience, and we're starting from scratch, right? And we really just wanted to take this opportunity to share all the things that we have with you all. So some goals for the day. And again, if myself or Danya are muting you, just managing the background noise, very much want this to be a discussion and ask questions throughout. But the goal really today is to share resources with you all as you're thinking about designing, if you're moving to an implementation phase, and we're looking at work-based learning experiences all across the continuum. So from career awareness all the way through those more intensive career development experiences. But a lot of what this is too is really building connections among you all. So we'll have a moment here in a second to do some just kind of small breakout rooms, getting to know one another before we dig in. But one of the best things that comes out of IWIN, that comes out of these sessions, is really how you all connect and start sharing your models and start to find someone, even within the chat or through conversation, that you want to connect with, right? And keep learning from and working with. And so we have stakeholders in work-based learning who join these conversations, who are, employers, community-based organizations, high school level staff. We have more and more post-secondary folks who are joining this conversation, and even to your elementary, as more people are thinking about the K-5 or 6-8 and what that means for work-based learning. And that's across Illinois and nationally. We have a mix of people who join these. But also want to spend some time towards the end here. We've plotted out a series for the fall, kind of based on insights and input we've had from this network throughout the years, but I want to just kind of keep doing a pulse check on that and gather insights from you all on, what's top of mind that should be prioritized for discussion, or what community models, what resources you would like to see. And so we'll spend some time towards the end on that. I'll start to dig in here. And again, please feel free to be putting stuff in the chat, questions throughout. Very much want this to be about sharing resources with you and kind of answering the things that are top of mind for you. Very much is more of kind of like a big, broad overview session here with IWIN. Typically with our sessions, we get more specific or particular about a certain topic or a certain model, but really thought to kick off the school year, again, knowing that so many people are new to their roles, we just wanted to ground us all in all that we have in Illinois that can really help you with your work-based learning. So in terms of some Illinois background, many of you are familiar with this. Others of you are like, oh yeah, wait, right. And others of you are like, wait, what? But we have a lot of state policy frameworks that support work-based learning in Illinois. There's a lot of work that's been done to really set the foundation and have us as a strong state who's ready to do that design and do that implementation in terms of work-based learning. I talked to some states, went to the National ACTE Work-Based Learning Conference recently, and there's states who are still working on defining their work-based learning, right? And that's something that we have done in the state, while language and definitions are always there to be worked on and get folks familiarized with. We really have set that foundation. So, we have our Post-Secondary Workforce Readiness Act, which very much the College and Career Pathway Endorsement falls under, and I'm going to show that here in a moment. But we also have our College and Career Readiness Indicators. As I mentioned, we have our dictionary. We have a lot of post-secondary efforts, and even with our Department of Commerce and Economic Opportunity, there's all these things, right? Each of these circles here could be a webinar in themselves about how they support work-based learning, but want to put these out there. If you're not familiar with these things, right? They are there. They really are a policy framework that we can lean on and refer to as we're thinking about work-based learning, so that we're not all kind of doing different things, but we're aligned around those frameworks and definitions and resources that go along with those. And so the College and Career Pathway Endorsement is a big one, right? So in terms of this kind of, teal green, depending on what your color is there. I was getting really mixed up the other day on neon greens and yellows, but this professional learning bucket, that's really where the work-based learning lives, especially as you're thinking about that high school level, but even that 6 through 8, as you're thinking about career exploration, that can now count towards that high school endorsement. Again, the college and career pathway endorsement, lots of resources on that, can dig into that if you're not as familiar with it. But a lot of our work in IWIN is really grounded through this endorsement. It's grounded through the definitions that go along with a career exploration and team-based challenges and these career development experiences. But we also share a lot of resources and pieces in IWIN that are beyond the requirements of a college and career pathway endorsement. But we do make sure that we're always aligned to it. So for those districts, those schools who are striving towards this, who are implementing it or working on getting approved to offer this endorsement, we're not going to offer anything here at IWIN that's going to confuse that. But even as I was talking to someone earlier, there is another Heather at ISB, the State Board of Education, and that team there really is your resource as you're looking for your approvals and going through questions with them. But IWIN can also support you in that process because we have communities from all across Illinois who've been going through the process to get the endorsement, who are approved or who are working on getting approved. And so we really do within IWIN and these resources we're going to share that they go across the continuum. So, in terms of having a really robust experience, it is about moving a student, moving an individual along this continuum. So you don't necessarily want to put someone into a career development experience or a youth apprenticeship before they've engaged in some of these earlier parts of the continuum. So career awareness, where they're watching videos, taking surveys, career exploration, they're getting that direct engagement with an industry person, learning about one or more occupations. Again, all these definitions are rooted within our Illinois Career Pathways Dictionary. But then moving along to those team-based challenge where they're getting mentorship from an industry mentor, they're really working on authentic problems and they're driving the solution, they're driving the way groups of students, groups of teams to address the challenge, address the problem at hand. And now then they're getting into those more intensive kind of career development experiences or what you might think of as like an internship, right? But that is a broad bucket term to put in like supervised ag experiences, school-based enterprises. Again, these more intensive type experiences where you can see on the bottom, the managing organization, whether that's the school or a community-based partner, their role at the front with career awareness is pretty heavy, right? They are doing curriculum or they have videos or they have surveys. But as you move along this continuum, you see that host, that employer, that industry mentor, they really take on a bigger and bigger role, right? But they're always there, right? It just depends on what the intensity of their role is at the time. But through these resources we're going to share today, they are going to help you with pieces all along this continuum. And there's a lot of other resources that are really kind of crucial and key as you're thinking about work-based learning here in Illinois. So the work-based learning manual from the Career and Technical Education Department at ISB, that's going to have a lot of your specifics and additional guidance. When you're thinking about work-based learning, it's going to refer again to these definitions that are in the Illinois Career Pathways Dictionary. And thank you, Danya, for getting all those links in there. We will share this whole presentation and recording with you all, but there's links in there for now as you're getting familiar with these resources if you aren't already. But really leaning on that manual, leading on the dictionary. So you're really rooted in our kind of guidelines and definitions for work-based learning, but then also centering those within the recommended technical and essential employability competency. So as you would pull that document up, and I'll just pull it here and anybody let me know if it didn't pop up. But this is where you're really thinking about what are those kind of essential employability competency statements that you want to work through, and also what are those technical ones that you want to work through as well. So we have those within the state, and when you think about work-based learning and you're really thinking about intentionality, about designing those experiences, is how are you focused in on one or two kind of competencies, both technical and essential, that you're really supporting students to develop and understand and receive mentorship on. So those competencies are very much there to help you ground and root your work-based learning in those outcomes. There's also the Career Development Experience Toolkit. So, those of you who are familiar with me and my work, I like to call this my memoir of running a high school internship program back in the day. Used to work with a nonprofit where students did 10-month-long internships their senior year of high school. But this is really a toolkit. It's a guide for you, and I'll pull it up here in just a moment. But the goal is saying, okay, career development experience, what is that definition? What are those expectations when we're thinking about a high quality, rigorous type of experience? But it also provides all kinds of guidance, tools, and frameworks. There's a lot of best practices from communities across the state who are doing this, for you to be able to look at that model and say, okay, there's a piece of this that I could implement. How would I fit that into my own context? But one of the really great parts of it is that there's a lot of just like resources on here. So as you would click that link, there's multiple kind of, what's the word I want to say? Like additional resources that go along with the toolkit. So one of them is this packet right here. And as you pull that up, it has all the different templates and all the different things that the toolkit has. So I'm going to zoom in on this a bit. But you can see, so for like onboarding, if you wanted to create like a student profile, if you want to have kind of a program outline of your career development experience or your CDE, putting together a template for a guidebook for hosts, like all these things are in here. And this is one piece, as we thought about this session for iWin, and we're thinking about Work-Based Learning 101, is that there's a lot of stuff out here that you can utilize and not have to, start on your own, keep recreating the wheel. But as you would go down this site, right, it goes through each section of the CDE. But again, I just want to point out some different templates and pieces here for you, especially when you think about these different guidebooks that can take a while, gathering a host profile, right? You can download these things in Word and you can put your own logo on them. You can delete and add to. There's lots of templates on here. So if you are doing any sort of internship type experience, career development experience, really encourage you to dig through this site, look at all the templates that are available, and download those, and don't start with a blank document in front of you. That has been started for you to kind of spark your thinking and think about all the different pieces that you should have in there. But there's a lot of different sources for continuous improvement and supports, right? So Career Connected Illinois, I know many of you on this call have been to their professional development opportunities. They've offered those within team-based challenges and also within the essential skills. Encourage you to continue to access those resources and that also community for learning. But we do also have a division of work-based learning within the Illinois ACTE. So again, these things, I think Danya's putting those links in there too. It's like I see the chat coming up, but those links are in there for you too, as you'd want to join that community. And then iWin is who you're with today, right? So we're another network within Illinois that's helping to support that work-based learning component, and just gather communities from across Illinois and nationally to share about what they're doing. But again, when it gets to the college and career pathway endorsement, we are a source, like people are going to share with you and everything is going to be aligned so as to not confuse. But the Illinois State Board of Education does offer those regular office hours where you can go in with your work-based learning questions as you're navigating your own kind of application for approval with the endorsement. But we are here to support and offer community models and resources as well in that journey. So what we're going to dig into here is a bit more of all the different resources and links that you're going to get to as you would go to the iWin page. And so this network, right, in addition to, ISB, who's going to be supporting you, the IACTE group, the Career Connected group, we really come together and we think about in iWin is how do we highlight and how do we explore really innovative models for work-based learning. So you've met the expectation for a team-based challenge or a career development experience, but you're also trying now to scale and think about equity and access and continuous improvement. Like how do we really highlight those models and bring them up? But really, a lot of it is building connections. It's something I share every iWin that we do, is that my favorite thing is just how people meet one another and come together through these opportunities, and how they'll even learn from each other. And I'll see them at a meeting one day and they're like, I met up with so-and-so and now we're collaborating on this, and they shared all this stuff with me. And so it really is, again, too, something we've launched last year is engaging in some more kind of less formal presentations, but just conversations. And as we're thinking about broader and more equitable access, when we're thinking about building social capital for our historically marginalized learners, how can we really dig in and have weedy conversations about what that looks like? Whether it's, how do you figure out criteria for a job shadow? How are you navigating employers where some will pay for an internship, some won't, right? Like these questions that really do get to kind of that equitable access, they get to that scale piece. We very much are going to be engaged in those conversations again this year. And then, when we think about the state, are there big things? We had a work group last year through our Success Network Policy Committee about transportation, like kind of thinking about all those different pieces too, and what could happen there. But I'm going to move us. I'm going to walk you through kind of some of my like fan favorite resources. And in that too, you'll kind of see a bit how to navigate this site, but I'm not going to give you like a how to navigate a website kind of session here. I just want to highlight some of the resources and things that you could lean on and really engage with through iWin, and encourage you all to click around through this resource hub, forward this to others. Anybody is welcome to be a part of this network. There's no like membership fee or anything like that. It really just is an open network to gather stakeholders from across Illinois. But, as we go through here and we think about our different pieces, there's always, again, these work-based learning fundamentals. So everything we do is going to be rooted in this and expanding on this, but not going to confuse things that we have in terms of our Illinois state frameworks. But we do also have, we know that people are engaging in this in certain industry areas, right? And so we have work-based learning continuums in education, health sciences, and manufacturing. And some of the things that I'm most excited about here within the education one, you can see it goes through awareness, exploration, but within the team-based challenges, Ridgewood High School, I know I saw a few folks from that region on the call here, have done some really incredible work in terms of their regional team-based challenges and having students even give recommendations on AI policies. And so they've shared their event overview, their insights, recommendations gathered from the students about AI policies. So maybe you're not looking for a team-based challenge, but you're looking for what the heck you should do with AI within your school. I still don't know. I don't know what my thoughts are generally on all of it. That's like a whole other session, a whole other soapbox or something. But they've really shared those. Morrison High School did a really incredible piece too about thinking about remote learning. And they've shared all their details, how they've scoped it out, how they've really thought about it. Just some very, very cool things here. So again, communities are putting this stuff here. It's for you. And the same is true in health sciences. If we're thinking about, an innovative practice in terms of career exploration, East St. Louis, it did a really incredible job having a multi-generational event where they had students and their family members come, and they had, the industry professionals from Barnes Jewish Hospital were right next to representatives from their local community colleges, both Southwestern Illinois and St. Louis Community College. And so students and their families could learn both about, okay, here are the roles that are available. They went on tours all through the radiology department, but here's also my education pathways to get there. They even had talent, HR people on staff who were interviewing some of the adults there who actually had some certifications that they weren't sure what to do with. And so they met with their talent, they met with their HR and got set up for interviews and, possibly some jobs after that. So some really innovative models here in career exploration. And one of the big questions too, in terms of career development experiences is, how do you get, students under 18 to be in these settings and hospitals, and communities are doing it, right? So more models here of how you can make that happen and address that under 18 component. The, one-liner for that is basically that just put the high school students through the HIPAA process and then they'll be HIPAA certified and can do it. So there's no real magic to it beyond them going through the same process that an adult would, who would have to abide by those same kind of patient privacy guidelines. And then in manufacturing, you've got a lot of that too. Very much some internships again here. Manufacturing is another one of those industries where you get a lot of this back and forth with employers about under 18. And so you have Northern Kane County, who's done a really incredible work with their internship and apprenticeship program, and they've shared everything for you, right? So if you want to know a program timeline, like what did the student application look like? What was even the flow chart of student placement? Communities have really shared their pieces here with you. And we have an initiative called STAMP, Scaling Transformative Advanced Manufacturing Pathways. Got that acronym. And we've created a lot of, kind of one-pagers that are employer facing. And one of those is navigating legalities and logistics about hosting under 18, but others too are about mentorship and onboarding and supporting interns. So these things are all here for you as well. These were were developed to be employer facing. So the hope is that you could literally just download this and send it to an employer. But if you wanted to take this and add some of your other information to it, you could. I'll just flag here again, it doesn't constitute legal advice, should always consult with someone, but there's a lot of call outs and moments for you to have conversations with your employer partners about that under 18 piece and how others have kind of made that happen. I'll share just a couple more things here. Again, I know this is a bit of resource overload, and I'm trying to keep an eye on the chat too. Danya, let me know if I should ever pause and address something. But we have, every time we have a convening, it's all here, right? And I would encourage you to, sometimes you could even just listen in, go on a walk with your dog or something, and listen into a convening. But there also are a lot of really great things that are shared through all of these convenings. North Kansas City came on, oh gosh, when was that now? Back in February. But they really talked about their whole system and how they've built that. And so that's where something I love about iWin too is we have a lot of Illinois models come on, because it is helpful and important to kind of understand our own landscape and the parameters that we're working within in Illinois. But it's also good to kind of get out of our Illinois space sometimes and hear what other states are up to. And so within these convenings, there's the recording and the presentation, but they also share a ton of stuff. And some of the, I think, most helpful things I've seen here for North Kansas City was the way they really structured their advisory boards. That's something I hear from communities quite a bit is, how do you better engage your advisory board? What does it look like to set expectations and have more kind of action items from them rather than it just being a meeting with updates? And so they've kind of shared how they've navigated those roles and responsibilities, their handbook. But we'll also say too, right, they really shared with us the kind of behind the scenes look at how they started to build out customization within their student information systems for navigating work-based learning processes in terms of their guest speaker and all of that. So they've just shared all those different pieces. We've also had, I'd say, one of my other favorite convenings on here is, oh my God, we've done so much. It's like, where are these sometimes, right? There's a lot of questions about what it looks like to onboard and support employer partners. And so Valleys, the Valley Education for Employment System, they came on and they talked through their whole process. They shared the presentation they used, they shared the agenda they used, they shared all the different templates that they want employers to fill out for that. There's even this internship micro-credential that kind of would guide through that process. So this is a really helpful one if you're trying to rethink, how do I onboard? How do I support employer partners? How do I get those job descriptions before a student is starting there on the first day? How do I get, from the employers what an orientation plan is going to look like for that young person so that they're doing that ahead of time. And so they're prepared day one for that young person to enter their space. And so this is another one of my favorites. But there's lots and lots of convenings on here that you could take a look at and hear all about the different things that people have done. These are very much like community-driven presentations. I do not usually talk this much at iWin. I'm almost not used to it anymore. I'm like getting out of breath over here, but these really are community-driven sessions. And the other piece here, a lot of blog posts that we'll put out sometimes. So we were having conversations last year about job shadows, and we were thinking about, what does that look like to navigate that? How do you, recruit, have criteria for that? What does that look like with students? And so we'll post blog posts after those more informal conversations where we don't record that. We just really want it to be an open place. But this one has a lot of great insights from communities about job shadows and what it looks like to think about teacher concerns within that, even student attendance. They say they're going to attend and they don't show up. And now you're like, oh, showing up to the partner with 5 students instead of 30 and how that kind of feels and what that looks like. And so we engage in these weedy kind of conversations. And so I encourage you to look at these blogs that we have, even with essential skill development, community sharing about that. There's a lot of things on here, and it's really about lifting up the great work that you all are doing, trying to address, not always fully answer the questions that you have, but really lifting up that great work. And with that, I'm actually going to stop share because I think, Daniel, you're going to take over, right? Or do you want me to click for you?
No, I got it. I got it. Thank you.
Okay. We're just going to show you a few more resources here, and then we're going to start to dig into some conversation.
Yeah, so as Heather said, there is a lot on the iWin site. And something I really want to highlight real quick is some different ways of navigating all of that and really go through our resource library. But before that, as we're on this conversation about convenings, if you do go to the convenings and you're looking for a particular conversation about a particular thing, I just always like to highlight because sometimes I go to a website and scroll past and not notice some of this right here. And so, like, if you're looking for a particular conversation about manufacturing, career development experiences, like you can also really, really limit your search that way and find exactly what you need. And for the plethora of resources, we kind of have that same functionality. So here is the iWin Resource Hub library. Heather showed you, I'll walk through that like continuum view that you could have. All of those resources also exist in this library. And I want to walk through about like walk through how they look and some of the ways that we package them to even make it a little bit more accessible to your communities as you're trying to find community models and resources to utilize for your specific needs. So, for example, if you're looking for a particular community model on manufacturing, again, love manufacturing out here. You can click right here and you can see this community example, Boone County Manufacturing Internship. And you'll kind of see the resources now packaged in this way where there's an introduction of what you're going to see. You know, it tells you that they offered a manufacturing career development experience, what you're going to find in this PDF file. There is here starting out with a video, which was a pilot showcase of their internship program. If you click, it'll take you to YouTube. And then there's a quick like attachment section that'll tell you what you're going to get in the rest of the resource. So you'll find an internship position description, a one-pager handout to, engage with employers and share about that value add and communicate with them, get an example of how you can communicate with them, a flyer that you could send out to your employers. And so just want to share here that we have now also packaged the resources in this way so that you kind of get everything from one community in one place, if that's what the way that you're looking for it. Like as Heather had shown, there's ways that you can approach them where you're looking in a particular continuum and you're looking for a specific, area of the continuum. This packaging specifically will, dive into one community, showcase that work that one community did all together, and give the context as needed. So just wanted to highlight that, and I'll give another example as well. Say you're looking for a work-based learning resource, and the way that we're distinguishing resource versus community model here is community models are just a showcase of what a community did versus resource still comes from a community that has done this work, but it's a resource that you could also just use without having to change any of the wording to fit your own needs. So it's there and ready for you to use. And an example of that is, say we want to look at human public services. We want to look at the Central Illinois Educators Resource. It's packaged the same way where like it'll give you a quick one-liner or to short paragraph about what you're going to be getting. There's a video here where like this is the main part of the resource, educators sharing their stories of teaching in Central Illinois that can be used for career awareness in your individual communities. And then this one features some extra links. So Careers in Video in Education video series has some non-teaching videos, and Teach Central Illinois is just a send off to another website with more resources. And so this packaging is really meant for it to be, approachable so that if you're looking to see how a certain community has done this work or get like the full context of what a community has shared with us, they're packaged in that way for you to engage with. I'm going to take a quick look at the chat, make sure I'm not missing anything. Oh, how I got to the resource hub. Absolutely. So from the main link, from this main resource hub link, this will take you to the main page that I'm on right now. And then you'll go here to the resources drop down and you'll click iWin Resource Library. And then what Heather walked you all through was these four down here, the work-based learning fundamentals or the continuum pages. But what I went to is this top one right here, that iWin Resource Library. I'll take you right to that page. Awesome. Any questions about navigating the resource hub before I move on from this page? We'll have time for like discussion about, general resources and what we do at the end too, but just wanted to check in before I head back to our presentation. Awesome. So I just want to share here one more key resource that we worked on this past year, high quality criteria for work-based learning. So essentially this is done in response to legislation that has passed that is called for growth in work-based learning. Many of you are likely familiar with this act. And so essentially what we've put together is a high quality work-based learning criteria document for the entire work-based learning continuum. And the way that we put this together was by convening an advisory committee of stakeholders in work-based learning all across the state, folks from urban communities, rural communities, folks that are working in the schools themselves, folks that are working at the district level. And we got an idea of from those people that were engaging in high quality work-based learning in their own communities, what they believed it takes to put together high quality work-based learning experiences. So we've put together this comprehensive resource that has high quality criteria as well as resources and advisory highlights that I'll share in just a moment. And it really has this eye towards continuous improvement. It's really going beyond the implementation phase, beyond the basic requirements. Like it ties in, as Heather said, everything that we do ties into the requirements. We don't want to, confuse or conflate with the requirements that everybody, should be engaging with, but it puts forth those requirements and makes sure that folks know what they need to be doing at a minimum. And then this is really with an eye towards equity and continuous improvement. We provide criteria, resources, and thoughts about how to go past that implementation phase and continue to improve on what your offerings are. And so for each of the continuum components, it'll kind of look like this. Share the basic requirements for career awareness there at the top, like she really shared that definitional component. And then below, you'll see a table with high quality criteria separated into buckets, hopefully to make it more digestible. How can you align? What should you be doing to align to coursework? What should you be doing to ensure that students are understanding pathways, things of that sort. And then to the right, paired with each of these high quality criteria, we have student I can statements to really put this through the lens of what do students need to be doing at each of these stages to be engaging in high quality work-based learning, to when they're engaging in high quality work-based learning experiences, what should they be able to do aligned with this criteria? And so we were able to do this by engaging with our youth intern, Emily Wan, who was a part of the advisory meetings and would create these I can statements and then share them with the group at each convening. And so it's really a good way to get to see side by side with, what the coordinator or district level folks can be doing alongside what the students should be able to do at each of these continuum stages. And then it's not pictured here, but in the resource itself, and I'll send along. Oh, I just saw Heather put the link in the chat, so you can see this yourself as well. But paired with each of these tables is also an advisory highlight. So the process of this, putting together this criteria was a process of many conversations with these stakeholders that I've mentioned. And through these conversations, we would really highlight the types of things that that are hard to put into a criteria, but are really important to being able to provide high quality experiences. And so for career awareness, career exploration, team-based challenges, and career development experiences, as well as work-based learning systems and processes, there's also a advisory highlight section in which it was like a culmination of the conversations that these folks from across the state were having about what it really takes to put together a high quality experience, and something that anybody reading the document should be having an eye towards to ensure that they're, providing the best experience that they can. And so I hope that you engage with that document. We tried to make it as digestible as possible, but still put some great insights from these stakeholders and our student intern. And I'll move forward now into discussion and next steps. So I want to take a pause here. I know that we've shared a lot with you all today. And so I want to take a pause. Heather's going to also launch a poll. And we want to hear from y'all, whether there was questions about anything that was shared today, whether or not there's something that you think that's missing. Is there any other resources you can imagine that you would need to support your work-based learning efforts that you didn't see us mention today? Or what can we prioritize moving forwards to ensure that you're getting the support that you need to engage in this work in the year to come? So what are some type of topics we can prioritize? What are some models you'd like to see? And what are some questions we can pose to the group to grapple with? As Heather mentioned, we have a lot of those types of conversations as well. So I'll go ahead and have her launch the poll. And please also feel free to unmute yourself. Feel free to put in the chat whatever feels most comfortable to you. But we have these next, several minutes here just to hear back from you all.
Yeah, and I'll launch it in a moment. Just wanted to, I know it was like a drinking from a fire hose of resources. So just if you want us to review again anything, or if you're all like, wait a minute, you all didn't show the one thing that I use all the time, let us know. But I'll pause here for a moment if there are those questions or any clarification we can provide. And then, yes, would love to, capture your input for iWin this school year. All right, well, maybe while we have you then here, I'm going to go ahead and just launch that poll. Again, take some moments here. Want to know more about like what topics you're thinking we should prioritize, what community models you'd like to see, questions that are top of mind for you, and just anything else really that you'd suggest. We want to make sure that these sessions and what we do throughout the school year are really focused on you. And if you're like, I don't want to deal with this poll, you can just put stuff in the chat. Ruth, good question. Talking about apprenticeships and, AP versus apprenticeships. I don't know top of mind specifically AP versus apprenticeships. Curious anybody else on the line, but I know there's more and more kind of marketing and information going out trying to explain like pathways to families, right? So what are the different pathways? What can that look like for young people? Especially kind of rethinking a bit of that senior year and what do some new students need their senior year? What do others should prioritize? Curious if anybody here knows of apprenticeships versus AP or just marketing guidance about that senior year. I'll keep it in mind though, Ruth, as I might hear something, or again, if others on the line have any thoughts there. Yeah, Michael, some pre-apprenticeship models for high school. I mean, there's also too, would you think like, the whole, you have like youth apprenticeship, pre-apprenticeship, and then apprenticeship, right? Maybe we can kind of do a session about, youth apprenticeship models and pre-apprenticeship. Give you all, I know there's still a few more people filling this out, so we'll give you about a couple minutes here. Oh, great. Thank you, Kim. Ruth, you've got some thoughts here in the chat about dual credit with pathways, apprenticeships. Yeah, and some of that too, I might link in here as it's helpful. Some of the work we've done with ISB and ICCB and communities across the state are developed these model programs of study guides. So to Kim's point and thinking about the dual credit that's within that, where you're fitting in those apprenticeships and work-based learning in alignment with coursework. But also where sometimes, when you think about the endorsement and the early college credit that's required in there, right? Like your AP, depending on that AP course could what's the word I want to use, could address that part of the endorsement or that part of the pathway. So we have those model program of study guides there that are kind of meant to be a conversation and a starting point and show really, what are those priority career focus, priority college credit with an emphasis on dual credit programs of study that you can do high school. And then what does that look like to and through post-secondary, specifically at the community college level? Yeah, Chris, very much to your point too, right? I think I'm starting to hear what's bubbling up for me is maybe a need to, I don't know if it's a session or a better collection of resources. I think as we've all better kind of understood our design process, our foundational process for work-based learning, now it's this marketing piece, right? Like how do you both market that internally? So we will have a session this fall where the Valley View School District will share about how they've engaged an advisory committee internally to get their teachers and educators on board. Or not even on board, might not be the right way to say it, but students hear a lot from their teachers. They get information from their teachers. I used to be a high school biology teacher. My freshmen were asking me all kinds of questions I could barely answer, but I could get them in touch with the right person, right? So they are going to their teachers. And so how do we internally bring our teachers to understand all the work-based learning that's being offered, all the opportunities that are aligned there? So we'll have a session on that, but something bubbling up for me too is this external marketing to the students and families as well, right? Because they're making decisions with their families, very much so. We are planning some in-person events. I'll share that. I'm just going to leave the poll like open. And then as you're still filling it out, I don't need to like end it and share it. It's really much for us. And thank you, those of you who are putting in your insights. We really appreciate that and want to make sure we're addressing that. And we'll capture all this from the chat too. But Danya, if you don't mind moving to the next one here, just to answer that question too with Michael. We have some sessions that are coming up next. So the next one is an essential skills and career exploration. So we have two different communities who are going to be coming on and talking about both at the K-5 and also that kind of 6 through 12 and even beyond about engaging in the essential skills and aligning that with career exploration. But we have an in-person opportunity in Peoria. So October 2nd, they host if anybody's been to it, if there's any Peoria people or those who have attended before, it's this massive, like super hands-on, like all industries are really represented there. So you join us for that. We're going to get VIP tours and then have a discussion afterwards about what you thought and where you might kind of think about engaging in a similar opportunity, whether it's enhancing something you currently do, a whole new event. And then we have one of those roundtable discussions coming up too, but also working with those of you who may have been at the Success Network conference last year and heard from Riverbend High School about they built out this whole customized kind of like box suite that overlooks their gym. And they have all kinds of different like internships, school-based enterprises, employer relationship opportunities that they do to make that kind of box suite happen. And so coordinating in time with them, probably late January, about what that visit will look like. So you can see, again, a school-based enterprise that's connected to external partnerships in different industries as well. But I will share more on that as I can. But if anybody wants to host an in-person and share their model and have people visit you, I'm always happy to send out the coordination there. And yeah, I see the question, Patty, too, about the credentials, backgrounds for work-based learning coordinators. Yeah, so I think there's there's a lot of people who are getting the credential right through ISB in order to be certified for that workplace learning experience course. And I think some of those folks are playing a dual role of both the course and kind of the partnership recruitment management side. Other communities have, a person who is the partnership side, a person who is the student recruitment side, a person who's teaching the course, right? So I think it can kind of depend on just capacity and staffing and all that. But I know there's a lot of more folks getting that certification so that they can have a course that's addressing a variety of pathways within a single course. As students are going outside and completing their internship, career development experience. I don't know if I totally addressed your question, Patty, but
Yeah, I think it's just something we're trying to figure out in our region is if we wanted to kind of regionalize more than we currently do,
mm.
who are we looking for to guide the effort?
Yeah, and that's where I know one of the communities I was working with, they got certified and they're like, well, now I feel like I'm only teaching this course, right? But I have all these other things to do too. And so how do you kind of balance that as well, right?
Yep.
Good question. I'd be curious to see. I mean, that I don't know, bubbles up for me too. And there's this marketing piece that would be helpful to see how people are doing that, but also this, like, how are different people thinking about their staffing and their kind of like division of roles and responsibilities, and what does that look like, in a smaller district, a larger district, like kind of across the board. There's a lot of work to do in work-based learning, no pun intended. Um, but how do you divide that in a way that's thoughtful and it supports both the students and the partners, in an intentional way? Well, I'll leave here too. We have a few moments left. The last slide just has our contact information. Please feel free to reach out at any time here. We're always happy to answer questions or connect you with somebody who could answer it even better than we could. But we know a lot of folks and what you all are up to across the state here and across the nation, and just so excited to be launching this new school year with you all and engaging in more conversations. But please reach out with anything. We hope to keep seeing you at iWin sessions. And, if you get off this meeting and you're like, wait, there's something else I would love for you all to address through iWin, just, let us know. We're here to bring you all together and share the great work in Illinois.